The insistent chirping of the phone sliced through the quiet of our bedroom, a sound that usually meant one of two things: a late-night work emergency from Maddie, or my mother called to complain about her neighbor's cat. It was 1:17 a.m. according to the digital clock on my nightstand, and I was already halfway to sleep after a long day at the hospital. Maddie, however, was a light sleeper, and her hand shot out to snatch the phone from the charging dock. She mumbled a sleepy hello, the kind you give to someone you don't really expect to be calling at such an hour. "Yeah, it's me." "No, it's fine. Just a bit of a scheduling thing." "Okay, yeah, tomorrow's good too." "All right, bye," she whispered, her voice deliberately low. Then she quietly placed the phone back on the nightstand and nestled back into bed. I was still half asleep, but her behavior was oddly stiff. Not the usual warm, sleepy snuggling I was used to. My mind, still clouded with dreams and exhaustion, registered a faint sense, like a wrong note in a familiar melody. "Who was that?" I asked, my voice a low rumble in the darkness. "Oh, just a coworker," she said, her voice tight with peculiar edge of nervousness I couldn't place. There was a scheduling issue for tomorrow. I grunted in response, still too tired to truly process it. It wasn't unusual for her colleagues at the advertising agency to call at odd hours given the deadlines they were constantly facing. But something about her answer, the way she said it, was bothering me. My exhaustion battled with a gnawing feeling in my gut. It was a feeling I had never experienced before, a kind of visceral discomfort. It was like the universe was trying to tell me something, and my body was picking up on a frequency my mind was still too blurred to understand. I tried to drift back to sleep, but the feeling lingered. The scheduling issue explanation felt too pat, too rehearsed. As soon as the first ray of morning light peeked through the curtain, I felt compelled to check something. After Maddie left for work, I reached for her phone. The last call she'd missed was from an unknown number. My heart started to thud against my ribs in a steady, unnerving rhythm. I tapped the redial button without thinking. The phone rang twice before a man answered. His voice was deep, smooth, and it sent a shiver of dread down my spine. "Hello," he said. My tongue was suddenly thick, my mouth bone dry, and all the air seemed to have been sucked out of the room. I hung up immediately, my hand shaking as I placed the phone back on the nightstand. My world, what had felt so stable only hours before, started to tilt on its axis. The reality hit me like a freight train. It wasn't a coworker. And Maddie, my Maddie, the woman I had loved and trusted for the past 8 years, was lying to me. The sickening feeling of betrayal washed over me in waves, each one more potent than the last. My head was spinning, and I had to sit down on the edge of the bed. This couldn't be happening. Not to us. For the rest of the day, I walked around in a haze. My work at the hospital was a blur of faces and procedures. I felt like an observer of my own life, going through the motions while a maelstrom brewed inside me. Every thought, every memory of Maddie was now tainted with suspicion and the cold, hard knowledge of her deception. I didn't confront her immediately. I knew I couldn't. Not until I had a plan. Not until I was ready to face her. I spent the day like a ghost, going through the motions as a plan started to formulate in my mind. I wouldn't be the cucked husband that just crumbled. I would orchestrate my own symphony of despair and revenge, a symphony where she would conduct her own downfall. That evening, when Maddie walked through the door, she forced a smile that now seemed fake and hollow to me. "Hey, honey, how was your day?" she asked, placing a quick kiss on my cheek. The simple gesture felt like poison. "It was okay," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "How was yours?" I sat on the couch, picking up my book to pretend like things were normal. She rattled off some nonsense about her work deadlines and brainstorming sessions. I barely registered her words. My mind was focused on the conversation I'd had with the man earlier that morning. It was like a scene out of a bad movie. She was a villain, and she had cast me as the clueless fool. "You know," I said casually, setting my book aside, "there was a missed call on your phone last night. Funny thing, I redialed it this morning and someone answered." Her face went ashen. Her eyes widened, panic flashing across their surface. It was an immediate and dramatic change, a stark contrast to the relaxed facade she'd been putting on just seconds earlier. She looked like a deer caught in headlights. It was the first sign that the game had turned, and the fear in her eyes was a symphony to my ears. What are you talking about?" she stammered, her voice a mere whisper. "The number, Maddie. The number that called you at 1:17 a.m. The number you claimed was a coworker. I redialed it, and someone answered. He said hello. Did you not tell him he wasn't supposed to answer when your husband calls?" I remained completely calm, my voice steady, my eyes never leaving hers. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal. Her breath hitched. She took a step back, her hands fluttering uselessly at her sides. I don't know what you're talking about," she mumbled, her voice shaking. Her denial was pathetic, the lies as slimy as spiderwebs. "Really?" I asked, leaning forward, my eyes boring into hers. "Are you sure about that?" I could see the lie on her face. I could smell the deceit wafting off of her. It was palpable, it filled the room. I stood up and walked over to the window, looking outside at the street below, continuing to talk to her with my back turned, knowing this would make her even more uncomfortable. I'm a pretty smart guy, Maddie. I work with trauma patients all day long. I'm good at reading people, at spotting the signs, and your performance tonight is atrocious. You've been caught, Maddie. You can stop pretending." She remained silent, her eyes fixed on the floor. It was a silence of the accused, a silence that spoke volumes. "I know that you were out of town last week for a conference, but what I don't know is why you were in a cheap hotel in another city with someone other than your husband." I turned back to face her. She was pale and trembling, her face a mask of fear. The confident, assertive woman I knew was gone, replaced by a scared, guilty child. It was sad, pathetic, and immensely satisfying to watch her world come crumbling down. "Who is he, Maddie?" I asked, my voice devoid of any emotion, just cold, hard curiosity. She didn't answer. Instead, she crumpled to the floor, sobbing. The tears, however, didn't move me. They felt as fake as her lies. She was reaping what she had sown. I don't know what to say," she whispered, her words choked with sobs. "Don't say anything," I interrupted. "I'm done with your lies. I'm done with you, with the chains of their own deceit. And me? I was finally free." I turned and went into the bedroom, quickly packing a bag. I knew that staying in the same house as her would be unbearable. I couldn't stand the sight of her. I walked out into the living room, ignoring her pathetic cries, and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" she called out, her voice filled with panic. "Away from you," I replied, not bothering to look back. "I've already called a lawyer, and the process is beginning." I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I simply closed it behind me and walked out of my house, and out of my marriage. I had no regrets. I knew that my life was going to be vastly different, maybe even a little sad, but I also knew that I would never again be with someone who had betrayed me like that. I was ready to start over and build a life with someone I could trust. My life, my choices, and my path were going to be different now. I moved into a small apartment a few days later. The divorce was messy, but not nearly as messy as her attempts to justify her actions. I didn't give her the satisfaction of arguing. I let my lawyer do all the talking. After several months, the divorce was finalized, and I was done with Maddie forever. I decided to move to a new city, a clean slate in a place where nobody knew my history. I decided to travel a bit, to enjoy myself for a while. I was starting to feel like myself again, to feel free, to feel like the world was full of opportunities and not like an endless void. One day, a few months after moving, I went out to a coffee shop. As I was sitting down, I saw a familiar face walk into the cafe. It was a man on the phone from that night. He was with Maddie. He saw me too, his face turning white when he recognized me. Maddie followed his eyes, and her mouth dropped open when she saw me, as if she were seeing a ghost. I simply smiled, a small, knowing smile, and turned back to my book. I didn't say a word, didn't make a scene. I didn't need to. They were both trapped in their own mess, forever bound to each other.